Hey everybody, this is Stuart with Wine on the Dime, and today I'm releasing the next video in my WSET Level 2 series. I know it's been a while, I apologize, but there's a lot going on around here. So let's go ahead and get started and look at the format. Alright, so the format for this quiz is it's going to be 20 questions. The format is question slide, then answer slide. I do recommend that you write it down as if you were taking the test. Try to take less than 1 minute per question and do it closed to book. All the questions were created by me, and all of it was created in the context that you have already been reading the chapter and you're studying the material. So I'm going to just do brief explanations on the end of it, but all of the content that is in this comes from that chapter within the textbook, but none of the questions are actually from the WSET textbook, so you can actually go back in there and use the study guide. You can actually use the end of chapter materials and get additional questions in terms of what's being provided. So let's get started. Question 1. In order to produce quality grapes, a vine does not need which of the following? Oxygen, sunlight, water, warmth. The answer is A. A vine needs sunlight, CO2, water, warmth, and nutrients. Oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis. It's actually released by the plant. Question 2. Factors that affect the climate of wine-grown region are altitude, proximity to water, soil pH, latitude, pest density. Your answers are 1 and 2 only, 3 and 4 only, 2 and 5 only, 1, 3 and 5, 1, 2 and 4. The answer for this one is E. For climate, think of the acronym LAW. This stands for latitude, altitude, and water effects. These are the three main factors covered in the WSET Level 2. Latitude's influence is a result of the region's proximity to the equator. Altitude can play a fair part in retaining heat or adding cooling influences into the region. And a region's proximity to water can impact it due to the warming or cooling effect of the ocean's currents and breezes. Question 3. If the climate of a wine-growing region is warm, then the tannin in a red wine will be A. Unchanged, B. Lighter than a cool region, C. Higher than a cool region. The answer is C. Tannins are higher because the skins of the grapes tend to be thicker to prevent destruction of the grapes from the temperature. Question 4. If the climate of a wine-growing region is cool, then the acidity of the wine will be A. Unchanged, B. Lighter than a warm region, C. Higher than a warm region. The answer is C. There's less conversion of acid to sugar, so the residual acid in the grape is higher in cooler regions. Question number 5. Which of the following ways can you control variations in grape qualities during the winemaking process? A. Fining, B. Blending, C. Filtering, D. Punch down. The answer is B. These are all part of the winemaking process, but blending allows you to mix juices or finished wines to allow for a consistent quality. There are many places that do this to ensure a house style of wine, also known as a cuvee. Question number 6. Which of the following is not true about water in the vineyard? A. Too much water in the soil can result in root rot. B. Regions with high rainfall have no worries about grape growth. C. Canopy management can be used to increase airflow and dry out the vines. D. Irrigation can be used to increase the yield in vines who supply grapes for cheaper wines. The answer is B. While areas with high rainfall may not have to worry about irrigation, they do have to worry about damage done to the grapes and vines as a result of rot and mold. Question number 7. The following items affect warmth in a vineyard: altitude, sunlight, grape darkness, soil. The answer choices are 1 and 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. The answer is B. The darkness of the grape has no noticeable effect on the temperature of the vineyard. Question number 8. Regions in the center of land masses tend to have blank summers and blank winters than areas near the coast. Your choices are cooler summers and cooler winters, cooler summers and warmer winters, warmer summers and cooler winters, warmer summers and warmer winters. The answer is C. Large bodies of water have a mediating effect on the climate of growing regions. So the further away they are from the water, then the more there is a difference between the climate characteristics like average daily temperature, diurnal extremes, and so on. Question number 9. Water is found in which part of the grape? The pulp, the skin, the stem, the seeds? The answer is A. Think about what the majority of the grape is composed of. Wine is mostly water, just like the pulp is the majority of what you find in a grape. That's sort of a way that I kind of use to relate the two. Question 10. What is the usual order for the white wine making process? Choice A is press, crush, fermentation, maturation, bottling. B, press, crush, fermentation, bottling, maturation. C, crush, press, fermentation, maturation, bottling. Or D, crush, press, fermentation, bottling, maturation. The answer is C. Crushing the grapes breaks the skin to help extract more of the wine during the press, and really the juice during the press. The wine is then fermented, the juice is then fermented, and left to mature in vessels and of the winemaker's choice. Finally, the wine is bottled. And at that point, it really is wine. Question 11. The age and type of wood used when fermenting and maturing wine does not affect the quality of the bottled wine. True or false? The answer is B. The age, type of wood, and even the intensity of the barrel's char has a big effect on the final wine. New wood imparts a lot more flavors than used or neutral oak. French oak gives different qualities than American or even Hungarian oak. Question 12. Which of the following vineyard factors affect the cost of wine? Cost of land, yield of the vines, labor and equipment, all of the above. Okay, so this one's gonna be easy. This one's D. The land can be expensive, especially in premium regions. If you're getting an acre of land in Burgundy, for example, good luck. I hope you can afford it. The cost of labor and equipment can also be expensive depending on the methods and gear used. And actually in some areas, equipment is not allowed to be used. You have to hand harvest because it's the law. So that also affects the price of the area. The yield also impacts price, since the lower the yield, the more expensive the grapes. So if you are buying wine from an area where the average yield is 9 tons per acre versus an area where the average yield is 2 tons per acre, there's less grapes in the other region, so you're going to be paying more for those grapes. Question 13. Climate is the weather conditions that affect an area year to year. True or false? The answer is B. That's the definition of weather. Climate is a much longer term. So it's not a year-to-year thing. Your climate, you're looking at tens of years, hundreds of years. That's what climate is. Question 14. If the climate of a wine-growing region is warm, then the body of the wine will be A, unchanged, B, lighter than a cool region, C, more full than a cool region. The answer is C. The warmer the region, the more full the body of wine will be, due to the grape's opportunity to develop more than in a cool region. Question 15. If the climate of a wine-growing region is cool, then the alcohol in the wine will be A, unchanged, B, lighter than a warm region, C, higher than a warm region. The answer is B. There's less sugar development in the grapes in cooler regions. Less sugar equals less alcohol. Also, just so you know, if you ever find one of these things where they're talking about climate or sunlight or vineyard positioning or anything affecting a wine, and one of the answers is changed or it has no impact, is probably lying. In general, all of the things that you do when you're planting grapes, when you're performing winemaking processes, where it's done, the amount of water, the yield percentage, all of that stuff affects the quality of a wine. So it's very, very, very rare that A will ever be an answer on these. I'm just giving you a heads up now. Question 16. The effect that hail has on a vineyard is A, it can oversaturate the soil with water as it melts. B, hail can damage grapes as they are ripening, resulting in rot. C, makes it difficult to harvest the grapes. D, hail has no noticeable effect on grape growing. The answer is B. Hail's biggest issue is that it damages the skin of the grapes. So once the grap, oops, typo. Once the inside of the grap, should have been grape, is unprotected, then it can rot from infection. Hail also damages vines, so it can take longer to recover from it, if not kill the plant. Actually, y'all know I'm in Texas. The Texas Hill Country AVA actually has really hard times with late spring freezes and hail. It's not uncommon for hail to just kind of blast grapevines, especially during the bud break. And if it happens during that time, oh man, you're looking at least a couple seasons before you're going to get anything out of those vines. So hail is a major problem in a lot of areas. Question 17. Which of the following soils would result in the highest quality of grapes? Fertilizer-enriched soil, naturally high nitrogen soils, balanced nutrient soils, soils with low nutrient saturation. The answer is D, and I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but there's a reason behind it. This is part of the concept of stressing the vines to produce quality grapes. Since there are not a lot of nutrients in the soil, the vine has to really concentrate what little materials it has into the smaller yield of grapes. This results in higher quality and lower yielding vines. So one of the things that you can kind of think of in general is I always joke that the winemaking process is all about stress. It's all about the stress of getting the vineyard up and running. It's all about the stress of getting the vines appropriately stressed to produce quality grapes. It's about the stress of harvest. Then it's about the stress of the winemaker actually having to go through and make a quality product from quality grapes. And then it's the stress of the marketing and sales departments to get those bottles into people's hands. So the entire process of winemaking is nothing but stress. Question 18. The skin of a grape contains the following: tannins, color, bitter oils, water, flavoring compounds, sugar, acids. Your answer choices are 1, 2, 4, 5, 2, 5, 7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 5. The answer for this is D. Bitter oils are actually located in the seeds. Water, sugar, and acid are located in the pulp. Question 19. In which way does French oak not affect a wine? A. Subtle toast. B. Spicy characteristics. C. Provide harsher tannins. D. Slight nutty flavor. The answer to this is C. Provide harsher tannins. French oak typically has a way of smoothing the tannins on wine. American oak provides vanilla and coconut flavors while also yielding additional tannins. Now, with also that being said, keep in mind that the way that oak is being prepared by coopers matters. If it's seasoned oak, where it's been kind of sitting out for a couple years, it'll have different quality than freshly cut oak. So you have to keep all that in mind in terms of how that's playing. But in general, because this book is about generalities and not specificity, the answer is C. All right, question 20. Which of the following winery factors affects the cost of wine? Transport cost, distribution efficiency, aging and maturation, exchange rates. The answer is C. All the other factors fall under a category of packaging, distribution, and sales, whereas the aging and maturation is actually performed within the winery. All right, so how did you do? If you scored at least 17 correct, you passed with distinction. Good job. At least 14 correct, you passed with merit. At least 11, you just passed. And if you got 10 or less, you probably need to go back and read the chapter and do a little bit more studying. All right, so in terms of advice, I would say first, create some general rules for the impact of geography and climate. I already gave you one with the LAW acronym, and then also just kind of learn the difference between cool and warm climates, and maybe come up with some others that allow for you to kind of remember things that you have a hard time with. 2, learn the anatomy of the grape and how the plant metabolism works. So there are some really nice diagrams in the textbook that kind of break that down. Really study those sections because that will play a part in also learning a little bit about why certain grapes do better in certain climates and certain regions later on in the book. 3, diagram the winemaking process and choices. So for this, I actually make a whole bunch of flashcards and I kind of have them form a chain. And yeah, I'm a nerd. But anyway, that was the way that worked for me. If you're someone who can just sketch it out and have it look good, cool, that's for you. But really, knowing the winemaking process is very important on this exam. So anyway, this has been Stuart with Wine on the Dime doing another WSET Level 2 education quiz video thing. I hope you liked it. If you do, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, click that notifications bell, and join me for wine reviews, winery shoots, and the occasional live stream. And I will see you all again soon with another episode from Wine on the Dime.